Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel, which is called Brisket Boomers. I was wanting to have a YouTube channel for older people like me who are curious about the carnivore diet and what it might do for your health and well-being. My name is Amy Perrin. You can find me on social media as Amy, A-I-M-E-E, Fields, Perrin, on Facebook and Instagram mostly. I wanted to tell my story. Right now, I am 69 years. I don't use that old word, but I just recently had my 69th birthday and decided that it was time to start my YouTube channel. So here I go. I want to tell my story of why carnivore. And to tell it, it starts way back. In 1971, so that's, I believe, 53 years ago, I was really sick. I was 16 years old. I felt horrible. I was depressed. I was tired all the time. I had stomach aches all the time. My whole childhood, I had been constipated and kind of, to quote my sister, sickly. And I just felt horrible. So my mom took me to our family doctor, Dr. Ward, and he literally rolled his eyes at me, and at my mother, and said I had growing pains, and gave me a shot of B12. And we went home perplexed because I still felt horrible. So several months later, I started losing weight. I was super thirsty. I lost 15 pounds in 2 weeks. But my mother was afraid to take me to the doctor because the doctor had made fun of her, basically, for being a good mom. But then I started spotting in my underwear, and my mom said, "Oh, this time I'll take you to the gynecologist." So happily, we went to the gynecologist, and he listened to me about my symptoms, thirst and weight loss, and my spotting period. And then he smelled my breath, which had a ketone smell. And he knew, without even testing anything, that I had type 1 diabetes. He did test my urine, and I'm sure that it came back high urine sugar. So he sent me downstairs to the internist. Oops. Jasper, you don't need to bark. It's okay. Hey, don't do that. Where I was officially diagnosed with juvenile onset diabetes. I stayed a week in the hospital learning to give myself shots, and back then you only took 1 shot a day of NPH, insulin, and I went along my merry way. Pretty soon I started feeling a lot better, and I really had no complaints, although I was still constipated and still had a little bit of stomach troubles. And I also had debilitating headaches. I'd probably get a really bad headache once a week that I had to go to bed for. We never knew why, it just was. And I had very, very painful menstrual periods. But I did okay. And then went to college. And in college, I decided that I had an interest in health. I took a nutrition course, got out of school, and thought, there's got to be something more. So I started doing research on what is now called type 1 diabetes. Started reading books because there was no internet. I graduated in '76 and read a lot of books about health and read that all these diseases, cancer and lots of other diseases, could be healed with a change in diet. Even though I also read that type 1 diabetes could never be healed, I didn't believe it. I figured I could heal it. If other people are, hey, no more barking. If other people were healing lots of other things, I could heal type 1 diabetes. So that sent me off in a search of different modalities of healing, different diets. I tried all kinds of diets. I went vegetarian right away, eating eggs, cheese. Thank goodness I got a little protein, and occasionally tuna and chicken for the next several years. Got married, I had my 3 kids, and had put the thoughts of healing on the back burner a little bit. Every now and then I would get really interested in healing when I wasn't busy raising kids. One time I took heavy doses of golden seal, the herb, and my insulin requirements went way down. Another time I went on the Paracone diet, and my insulin requirements went way down. That was a diet of wild salmon and pears and romaine lettuce, basically. But I never could get off of the insulin. But my health wasn't so bad. I was doing all right, still had the headaches, still had digestive issues, but I was okay. Let's see, after vegetarian, oh, that's right. So in 1996, my health was, after 25 years of type 1 diabetes, my health was starting to get really bad. But not with the normal complications of type 1 diabetes. I had frozen shoulders, I had frozen hips, it took me like 30 seconds to get up out of a chair and straighten up. I was very stiff. I had a hard time running and playing with my kids. I didn't feel good. I even could not hold my head up when I would sit in the chair to watch TV. I couldn't, like I had to physically hold my head up. I couldn't just sit up straight. With my health being that bad, I got kind of depressed and started going to bed around 8 o'clock at night. I didn't know what I was going to do. And then I got a letter from a friend in the mail. She also had type 1 diabetes and frozen shoulder. And the letter, she sent me what was called Diabetes Interview. It was a magazine about type 1 diabetes. And there was an article that she circled, written by Dr. Richard K. Bernstein, about that frozen shoulder was a symptom of high blood sugars. Now, he wouldn't go so far as to say it was a complication of type 1 diabetes, but he said it is a complication of uncontrolled high blood sugars. So I had my answer, because I had been looking in medical journals. I would go to the hospital libraries because I thought I had some other disease. I thought I had a new disease that I didn't know anything about. So I got the answer from the article by Richard K. Bernstein. And at the end of the article, he had an offer for 2 cassette tapes that explained his method of controlling blood sugar as a type 1 diabetic. So I sent off for the cassette tapes in the snail mail, of course, and I got them back. It was June 2nd, 1996. My husband and I listened to those tapes, and I said, okay, I'm starting tomorrow. So I went from 1 shot a day to 5 shots. I got a different insulin. But back then you could just get, I don't even think you had to have a prescription in 1996. I just got a different insulin, and I started the low-carb diet. So basically it was intense insulin treatment and low carb, very low carb, 30 grams or less a day. So I did that and I did it for 7 years, but the first 2 months, all my symptoms went away, except, of course, I did have to lower my insulin quite a bit, but all my other joints, problems, and everything just completely cleared up, and I felt great. I got my A1C. I had never had an A1C down. Actually, that's not true. I had one A1C, and it was 6.5. And in a few months on the Bernstein diet, I got my A1C down to 4.9. But then 7 years later, after the start, I started hearing this buzz of this family who the son of the family was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, and his mother didn't want to put him on insulin, so she put him on a raw vegan diet, and he never had to take insulin. And he was all better. No high blood sugars. So I said, okay, well, that's what I'm going to try. So I tried the raw vegan diet. I did the raw vegan diet for another 7 years. By this time, it was, when I started it was 2003. After I'd been on the diet for a few years, I opened a business called Amy's Living Magic, and I sold raw vegan snacks. Most of them I dehydrated in dehydrators. I had 18 dehydrators going at all times. And I made stuff like onion bread and onion crisps and granola made with nuts, crackers, really good crackers. And it was all gluten-free and low carb. Most of it was low carb. I also made amazing brownies and all kinds of sweets and sugar-free chocolate. And that lasted for the next 5 years, when my husband and I and my daughter and a few friends that were raw vegans all decided that our health was suffering from being a raw vegan, and it was time to introduce some other foods. So I had been doing some research about different diets and decided that we should go, well, it was January 1st, 2010. And at that time, gas prices had gone really high, and it felt really stupid to pay a lot of money to buy an avocado every day so I could be a raw vegan that had to be shipped from California or Mexico, and to ship lettuce in the winter to Maine from these places just so I could be a raw vegan. So we all decided that we would start eating locally sourced, farm-raised food. So I added meat, local meat, beef, butter, bacon, and eggs, and only local vegetables, all local food. And I did keto just like that for years. I did keto for 8 years. I did locavore for probably 7 of those 8 years. Towards the end of it, it got harder and harder to get local meat and a lot more expensive. So we started shopping in grocery stores. And towards the end of keto, I was eating only 10 to 20 grams of carbs a day. I was eating mostly meat, eggs, cheese, and homemade kimchi and sauerkraut. That's basically what I was down to. And while my husband and I were on a trip in 2016, it couldn't have been 2016. It was in 2018, sorry. 2018, we were on a trip where he would teach painting workshops. And so while we were on the road between workshops, we'd do 6 on a trip. When we were on the road, we started listening to YouTube channels about keto. And then this podcast came up with Jordan Peterson on the Joe Rogan show, and then Sean Baker on the Joe Rogan show, and Michaela Peterson on the Joe Rogan show in October 2018, all talking about how their health has improved since starting the carnivore diet. Well, my husband says, I'm starting tomorrow. Well, we were on a trip. I was a type 1 diabetic. I wasn't sure what effect it would have on my insulin requirements or anything. So I said, I'll start when we get home. We got home November 12th, and that day somehow we were driving home long distance, and all I had eaten was meat and eggs and cheese. So I'm like, I guess I started today. We got home and ordered steaks from a close by restaurant, and that was my first day of carnivore. On carnivore, I loved the food. I was amazed because I had loved, eating sauerkraut and kimchi. I'd loved eggplant fries and turnip fries and sauteed vegetables and roasted red peppers. And I was quite a cook, and I was quite a foodie. I took pictures of all my food. I posted them on Instagram. I was like, how am I going to eat without eating vegetables? But it was so weird because when I started eating meat from local farms, I felt so good. I started every day out just like I do now with eggs and bacon. That was great. Breakfast was easy because I hadn't eaten bread in quite a while because I had started low carb, and I quit grains when I went low carb in 1996. So in 2010, I was already most of the way to keto anyway. And then when I switched to carnivore, I was so close to carnivore that it was easy. So I would just eat my bacon and eggs for breakfast. At lunch, I would have a half of a steak or a burger. Supper, I would have burger and eggs, and it was easy peasy. It was no big deal. Pretty soon, I started getting some really good results on the carnivore diet. I had no more headaches, although I thought maybe it might have been. So by the carnivore diet, I believe I was 64 when I first started. I had already stopped having headaches on keto. And it may have been because going through menopause, my hormones changed, and I think I stopped having headaches because of that. Let me take a little sip of water. My voice is getting gravelly. about 6 months in, the floaters that I had in my eyes disappeared, completely disappeared. And on keto, I already didn't have very many sore joints or anything, but on carnivore, wasn't sore anywhere on my whole entire body. I'm 64 years old, and I have no soreness anywhere in my body. So that was pretty amazing. I really liked shopping for the carnivore diet. I could go into a store and shop just around the perimeter and get my eggs and butter, although I'm buying butter from the farm. Eggs, butter, meat at the back meat counter, and then I could leave. That was it. It took me about 10 minutes at the grocery store. I liked that. I also liked the fact that it was super easy in the kitchen. I mean, all I had to do was cook a piece of meat or a few eggs. It was amazing. It was so easy in the kitchen. And there was less cleanup. And at the time, we lived in Portsmouth. We had a tiny little kitchen. It made it so easy to clean up, to shop, to fix our meals, that it was amazing. And I loved the carnivore diet. Every meal tasted delicious. It was amazing. I said that word quite a bit. So I wanted to start this and so now I've had 5 birthdays. I'm 69 years. I still feel fabulous. I think I look pretty good for my age. Trying to think of any definite symptoms that just went away. And it's hard to remember because I just feel really good. My sleep is great. And because I had such a gradual change from high carb, then low carb, then keto, then carnivore, it was such a gradual change over so many years that I did not, I was never heavy. So I didn't really need to lose weight because I had been really paying attention to diet for the last almost, not 50 years, almost 45 years. So, I never had that, when you gain weight when you're middle-aged or after menopause. I never gained weight with menopause. I never even had any menopause symptoms. And I don't really know why, but that was my experience. And I just feel so good on carnivore that I want to share how good it is. I've heard so many podcasts by so many people who are my age or much older who have loved carnivore and have gotten so many really good results on carnivore. So I wanted to do this channel, Brisket Boomers, thanks to my daughter Camille. Well, my 2 sons, Jonas and Jamie, and Camille were brainstorming with me to try to think up a channel name. And Brisket came up right away, but I'm like, how are people gonna know that it's for older people? Not that you can't watch it if you're young, you certainly can, because you want to look ahead. But my daughter thought of the boomers, so it's Brisket Boomers. And what I'm going to do in this channel is I'll continue to tell my story. I'll share my food that I eat and if any other benefits come up. And I'm also going to interview people who are my age and older, and maybe a few younger, because boomers, it's a wide age, so for several years. So anyway, and you don't have to be a boomer. You can be older. You can be older than the boomers, but probably not younger. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes after I get started. But I've enjoyed this. I hope you all have too. And I'll probably try to keep my podcast to about 25, 30 minutes, but you just never know. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you soon on Brisket Boomers. Bye.